going to do a type and screen on this patient specimen. Here at SAIT, we do 2 ABO-RH types and an antibody screen, 3 tubes for the antibody screen. The reason we do this is because in most labs they'll use a computer-assisted cross-match, and one of the requirements for a computer-assisted cross-match is that 2 ABO and RH types have been done on the patient. So we have anti-A, anti-B, and anti-D tubes set up in duplicate, A1 and B cells for the reverse group set up in duplicate, and we have our screening cell 1, 2, and 3. And the labeling on these is the accession number that corresponds to the EDTA sample. I'm just going to label one more tube for the second 5%. So I've got one tube labeled with all the information required for the first 5%. And we always make 2 5%s when we do a type and screen, 1 5% for one group and 1 5% for the other group. We'll fill those each 1/3 full with saline. And we're going to make quick 5%s. We're not going to wash them this time. When you work in the SAIT lab, Danelle will let you know, I will let you know when we're going to move to that time-saving technique. If I don't specify, just do 3 washes and then prepare your 5%. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do actually is to pipette out my anti-sera into the forward groupings. So same good pipette technique that you guys have been doing a great job of. Anti-A into the anti-A tubes, anti-B into the anti-D tubes, anti-D into the anti-D tubes. Okay, take the lid off the EDTA. Make sure your EDTA is sitting beside the test tubes that have the same accession number, and grab a TM pipette, the one with the narrow tip. We're going to grab the saline and pipette it into all of the tubes that require, we're going to grab the plasma and pipette it into all the tubes that require plasma. So the reverse grouping tubes and the antibody screen tubes. So when you go to pick up your plasma, pick up a lot because you're going to need a significant number of drops there. So 2 drops into each of the reverse grouping tubes. Looks like I was a little short there, so I'll just pick up a bit more. Looks good. Then with this same pipette, I'm going to go and pick up some cells from the EDTA tube. So I've squeezed the bulb a little bit. I'm going down to the very bottom, grab a few cells, just what's in the bottom portion of the pipette, the narrowest portion, and rinse that into one of my 5%s. Okay, hold on to the pipette, pick up your wrap, and ensure that you have liquid in all of your tubes. Oops, there we go. So I can see blue, yellow, clear. In my reverse groupings, I see 4 tubes that have patient's plasma in. And in my screen, I see 3 tubes that have patient plasma in. So this is my level check. So with my pipette, I'm ready to go into this, or take a quick look at my 5%, make sure I feel it's 5%. I just added some cells to saline, and I'm happy with how that looks. If you don't feel it's 5%, add a bit more saline, or if you feel like it's too weak, spin it down and take some saline off. This is called a quick 5%. So I grab the cells and pipette them into the forward grouping, just one of the forward groupings. Okay, discard that pipette, grab another pipette, grab some cells from the bottom of the EDTA, and make your second 5%. I like the look of it. I think it's about 5%. Again, make adjustments before you pipette. And pipette out your forward group, your second forward group. Notice how I'm throwing out the pipette now, even though I've got quite a few cells in it, just because I don't want to risk putting it back into a 5% and accidentally putting it into the wrong test tube. We are often running more than one patient at a time, so it's just a good practice. So we just need cells in the reverse grouping. So A cells, B cells, the screen, we need our screening cells. So you go to use the screening cells, make sure that you've recorded the lot number on your requisition, and make sure the cells are well mixed. I typically mix them as a set because it just saves time. Use good technique before using the cell. Make sure it's completely mixed. Make sure that the dropper contents has been put back into the bottle and mixed again. And grab your cell and pipette it into your tube. Nice vertical pipetting, and ensure that you're holding the pipette well above the lip of the tube. Another technique that we sometimes use here at SAIT as well when we're pipetting is to touch the tube. I'm standing on the ground, I've got like running shoes on. Touch the tube with my hand and pipette in, just because that seems to help alleviate some of the static we see here at SAIT, because our labs are very, very dry. You definitely want to get a full-size drop going into each of these screening cell tubes. Okay, we don't want a partial drop, which can sometimes happen due to static. So touch the side of the tube, stand up with your feet on the ground to ground yourself, and drop the drop nicely from above the test tube. Don't go too close. The cell will arc down to the edge and it won't bring a full drop into your test tube. Okay, so we've got our screening tubes just about ready to go. We have to remember to add PEG because this is the enhancement agent that we use here at SAIT. So the PEG is 2 drops per screening cell tube. It might have seemed like I put 3 in the one, but I missed 1 drop. It went down the side of the test tube, so I just added an extra one. Okay, and then these are ready to be incubated. So just give them a little waggle and into the incubator. So when you put the tubes in the incubator, always remember to carefully check the temperature and record the temperature on your requisition. In the meantime, we can get our ABO and D types into the centrifuge for 15 seconds and centrifuge those and record the ABO and RH types. So I'm going to not do that because you guys know what you're doing. I'm going to time warp the antibody screen. So I'm going to grab my antibody screen tube, same patient that had been incubating for some time, for 15 minutes at 37 degrees, and pull them out of the incubator. Before I begin to wash them, this is the wash that's done prior to the use of anti-human globulin, I give them a little waggle because they have been sitting for 15 minutes, and it's always best to have your cells nicely suspended because then they'll wash better. Okay, so I hold my test tubes, I hold the lids of my test tubes apart so that they're not touching, and I forcefully add saline to each of these tubes. So close to the top, and you want to be forceful so that the cells are being suspended throughout the test tube. You won't just end up with cells down at the bottom. So in they go for 45 seconds for the wash spin. So it's a bit of a wait, so we'll just pretend that this is our last wash, but I'm going to show you the hard dump that we're going to do with these tubes. Remember when we made up the 5% suspensions that the dump was very, very gentle and soft because we're trying to conserve our cells so that we have enough to make a 5% suspension. With the dump that we're going to do now, it's a hard dump because we're trying to get rid of all the saline and any antibody that was surrounding the cells and not attached to the cells, and therefore it's forceful to do a harder dump. Don't worry, you only have 1 drop of the screening cells in those tubes, so that 1 drop of cells will be very well cemented down there on the bottom of the little test tube and it should not come out. Okay, so grab the tubes. We'll do 1 tube at a time right now, just so that you get the hang of it. When you pull the tube out of the centrifuge, you'll notice that the cells are kind of off to one side of the tube. Let's see if we can see that there. There we go. There they are on one side of the tube as opposed to being right smack on the bottom of the tube. And that's simply because we have an angle head centrifuge, and so the cells stick to one side. We need to put the cells against the palm of our hand. So I'll try to show you here. The cells are on this side of the test tube, and that's going towards the palm of my hand. And this will just help you to not lose cells when you dump them. Actually, I'll dump with my other hand just so that you have a better view. So you can see the cells down there, they're against the palm of my hand. And I'm going to dump hard. Okay, you ready? So a nice hard dump. Do you see some liquid down there at the bottom of the test tube still? Bring your test tube up a little bit and push that out and back up. And see, we've still got cells in there. We're fine. They didn't fall out. Let's give it a shake so that we're prepared to do another wash. We need to do 3 really nice washes like this prior to adding anti-human globulin. So forceful addition of saline. And this one's ready for its second wash. You need to do that with each of the tubes. So here's my screening cell 2. After the 45-second spin, there's the cell down there at the bottom. There's all the saline, and I'm going to do a nice hard dump. So the button against the palm of my hand. So you can see the button there. There it is. See it? And we're going to do a nice hard dump. So hold your tube, get ready. Hard down, and another hard down, and back up. And that's real time. That's about how fast you want to get that done. Hopefully, if you've done a good job, you should have very little saline left in your test tube, and your cells should be just fine. So we'll shake that one up again. Add saline for the second wash, and dump our third test tube. So here's screening cell 3. Turn the button so it's against my hand. Seems to preserve cells better that way. And nice strong dump. Strong dump. Come back, get rid of that last little bit. And the cell button is nice and dry. You don't want to have much more saline than that left in your tube. Okay, we're going to give that a waggle. And if this was our third, if we had finished 3 washes, we would proceed to add our anti-human globulin. So we'll do that. Anti-human globulin is, we use the anti-IgG here at SAIT, and it's a green color. So 2 drops. And hopefully you've got all your screening cells completed, screening cells 1, 2, and 3. And then you just put that in for an agglutination spin, 15 seconds, and proceed to waggle, grade, and record. And that's how you do a type and screen.